Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to 7th Street. Recently, on one of my videos, I had a comment from a YouTube subscriber named 1000 Angers. Shout out, buddy. Thank you for commenting. He asked me to do a video of my top 10 favorite Italian horror films that were not directed by Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, or Bava. Which one? Lambarto or Mario? We'll exclude both of them. And you know what? Since you commented on my top 5 Joe D'Amato films video, I'll exclude him too. And then of course he posted a comment asking me to leave out Sergio Martino. Shit. Alright, let's do this. I think I'll just call this video 7th Street Productions Top 10 Italian Deep Cuts. Now, before getting into this video, I would like to point out the fact that a few of these movies I've actually already reviewed on my Reference This Film series, and then there are a few others that I planned on reviewing for Reference This Film. So, you know, just for that and for the sake of time, I'm not really gonna go too in-depth with these movies. I'm just gonna kind of lay them out and very briefly talk about what I like from them. Alright, kicking it off at number 10 is Umberto Lenzi's Black Demons. Black Demons is a really interesting one. It was actually Umberto Lenzi's last film that he ever directed, and it's not hard to see why. And it's not because of quality or anything like that, it's the fact that this movie came out in like 1990. Or 91. Something like that. It came out in the fucking 90s. I mean, look at this film. It looks, I mean, this movie would have been passable if it would have came out in like 1987. You know, this is a really good example for why the Italian horror industry just kind of dried up in the early 90s. They just couldn't compete anymore. I don't really know if it's like the film stock that they were using or what, but it looks dated. I mean, it started looking dated by 87. So definitely by 91, you know, we're talking about Silence of the Lambs being like right around the corner here. So, you know, it's not hard to see why this movie didn't do well. That aside, I really admire this movie. There's something that I really like about it. It's fun, and it's not a nostalgia thing for me. You know, I didn't see this movie until I was probably like 19, actually. So it's definitely not a nostalgia thing. I genuinely think that there is something to be enjoyed from this movie, from the goofy acting and some of the ridiculous special effects. I mean, it's a really fun one. And, you know, there still is some of Lenzi's style in this movie. There's something about it that, dare I say, is Fulci-esque. Like with the tropical settings and the voodoo curses that are bringing back the dead and the blind shaman. There are these elements to it that remind me of some of Fulci's work, especially his later work. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that has that opinion, but Black Demons is an enjoyable one. It's always a dark horse candidate for me. Coming in at number 9 on my list of Italian horror deep cuts is Bruno Mattei's The Other Hell. Definitely my favorite nunsploitation film, and was actually one of the inspirations for my latest feature film that I directed called Jesus, I Was Evil. Although it bears very few similarities to The Other Hell, it was definitely inspired. There's something about the nunsploitation genre that just makes me laugh, and this one is probably the best example of that. It was directed by Bruno Mattei, one of my favorite Italian directors, and co-directed and written by Claudio Fragasso, another one of my favorite, like, guilty pleasure Italian filmmakers. The plot here is really sort of strange. It's kind of like one part nunsploitation, you know, and if you're familiar with nunsploitation, it's sort of devoid of story, and it's more about, you know, naughty nuns. I think that works a lot better in Italy, you know, the home of the Vatican. And then it's like one part giallo film, sort of, and then one part sort of pseudo Rosemary's Baby, demonic possession type movie, with all of these murders happening at this naughty nun convent. And a detective from the Vatican is sent in to sort of figure out the mystery of what the fuck is going on and why all these people are dying in these strange, mysterious ways. It takes a lot of really bizarre twists and turns and ends with somebody getting stabbed in the dick. So, you know, how could this not make my list? It's just a fabulously ridiculous horror movie from the late 80s. You gotta check it out. The Other Hell. Okay, moving right along to the number 8 spot, we have Andrea Bianchi's Burial Ground. Definitely his best and probably his most watchable movie that he directed. Burial Ground is another really interesting one for me. I saw this at a pretty young age back in the days when you could order DVDs off of Netflix, and really didn't like it. I don't know, I think I was just a little too young for it. You know, the film stock is really kind of shitty, or at least the Shriek Show transfer was a little too shitty for me at the time. And the makeup is pretty crude in the movie. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I mean, maybe it was the creepy midget with the Benjamin Button disease who's trying to fuck his mom. There was something about it that I just didn't like, and over time it's really grown on me, and has really become one of those movies that whenever I'm looking through my DVD collection, you know, I always run across Burial Ground and I think, God, I like that movie much more than I think I like that movie, you know? I just need to be reminded of it every now and then. You know, this is another one of those Italian horror films that's pretty devoid of plot. I mean, it really is, some photographers and some models show up at a big spooky mansion, zombies rise from the dead, try to survive the night. That's really the gist of the entire movie. I mean, that is the log line right there, but, you know, it still works beautifully. Clearly. So many people love this movie, and I was just a little bit late to the bandwagon, but like I said, the more I watch it, the more I like it. It's got really fun gore effects in it. Obviously, like I said, creepy, gross little midget kid with the Benjamin Button disease is something else, for sure. It's definitely a very memorable one. Okay, taking the number 7 spot on this list is one that I'm sure everyone's gonna think is a joke, but I'm serious. I really enjoy this movie. Claudio Fragasso's Troll 2. This was a movie that I saw when I was really young, before the documentary came out, like way before the fucking documentary came out. I actually remember ordering this on Netflix as well and getting the double-sided MGM DVD, and I actually ordered this movie for the first Troll, Charles Band's Troll. I believe it was because I saw a video of all the like gross little puppets singing their song in the witch's house in that movie, and really like just wanted to see what that movie was. And I watched it, and I remember flipping it over and watching Troll 2 and being so blown away by that movie that I actually went to my sister and our friend from across the street, Courtney Dietrich, shout out, and I made them watch this movie. I was like, you will not believe this fucking movie. All I'm going to tell you is it's a monster movie that ends with a kid saving the day with a double-decker bologna sandwich. You know, I was 13 at the time, Courtney must have been 12, and my sister was like 9, and we sat there and just howled in laughter. And ever since then, this has just been one of those movies that I really, really like. It's a really infectious movie. You can't watch it and dislike it. I mean, I feel like you would just have to not have a heart to not like this movie. It's so much fun. You know, I enjoy the documentary, but it really doesn't deserve the title of Best Worst Movie. This is not the worst movie ever made. Shit, it's not even the worst Claudio Fragasso movie ever made. It's an extremely enjoyable movie. You can watch it again and again and again. And, you know, it's not that it's not like it's poorly made either. I mean, Claudio Fragasso isn't a hack. He had been in the film industry for years and years. I think the thing about this movie that people consider bad, obviously, are the cheap effects, but just this bizarre fucking storyline. And, you know, that's one of the things I love about Italian cinema, because it seems like, I don't know if this is the case, but it seems like you had a lot of these filmmakers just getting not blank checks, but getting a certain amount of money and just told to go make a movie. There was no like studio control saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, does this make sense? It kind of seems like they're like, oh, you know, we trust Claudio, here's some money, go make a movie. And they could just do whatever they want, you know? It seems like it was like the total wild, wild west for filmmakers. And Troll 2 is just one of those fucking bizarre movies that came out of the Wild West. So yes, Troll 2 is one of my favorite Italian horror films. Number 6 on my list is actually another Claudio Fragasso film. Yes, I do really like Claudio Fragasso, and I don't just like him ironically. I really like him as an artist. Definitely his best film, in my opinion, Beyond Darkness.
A family heaven sent.
It actually stars the same little kid, Michael Paul Stevenson, from Troll 2. I believe that this movie was made first, and that's a storyline that's just conveniently left out of the documentary Best Worst Movie that I really wish somebody would expand upon. I would really like to know, like, the working relationship between Michael Paul Stevenson and Claudio Fragasso, because he was in 2 of his movies. I mean, it blows my mind. I'll stop going on a tangent, I swear. Beyond Darkness is actually a fairly atmospheric, creepy movie.
Together, we would chase the demon from this house, from your boy, their dark powers.
It's sort of a ripoff of the Amityville horror, Poltergeist. It's got a little bit of The Exorcist in there. With all these years ago, there was like this crazy devil worshiper lady who like killed all of these children, and then she was electrocuted. And the priest that gave her like her last rites has been haunted by like seeing the ghost of these children. Fast forward to this family and like the new town priest who's like the father of this family moving into this house, and creepy things ensue. You know, the serial killer, devil worshiper lady has come back and is haunting this family and trying to possess the kids. Like I said, this is one I really want to do a reference this film on. This is just genuinely, there are moments, this movie actually made me jump. There are moments in this movie that are actually pretty creepy. You know, a great Blu-ray double feature was put out by Scream Factory. I definitely recommend checking this one out. This is such a sleeper Italian horror film, and it might make you think differently about Claudio Fragasso. So please check out Beyond Darkness.
Where did Martin go?
Beyond Darkness.
Have I mentioned that I love Bruno Mattei? Once again, he's back on my list with Rats, Nights of Terror. I've already reviewed this movie as a really early Reference This Film episode, so it might be a little bit rough. I recommend going back and checking it out. But this is just such a fun movie. It's so beautifully stupid with, you know, this Mad Max setting of these post-apocalyptic survivors who've been living underground, and now they come back to the surface and find that the surface of the earth is overrun with man-eating rats. There's an M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end of this movie that will make you laugh so hard that you shit your pants. I swear to God. There's just so much to be enjoyed with this movie. I'm not going to talk about it too much. You've really got to track yourself down a copy. I believe that Blue Underground has put this out on DVD and Blu-ray, but believe it or not, the only physical copy of this movie that I own is this beautiful VHS tape from Lightning Video. I obviously recorded this onto a DVD, and that's usually how I watch it, man. I sort of prefer the shitty VHS version. It's so beautiful.
Here come the rats!
You can't stop me now, and I'm taking Myrna with me.
You bastard!
Okay, moving on to another one that I've actually reviewed on an episode of Reference This Film. It's Umberto Lenzi's Nightmare City.
Now.
This is definitely my favorite Umberto Lenzi film. Once again, I saw this at a pretty young age, probably around 12, maybe 13. I actually saw it with my best friend Josh. We used to walk to the local Hollywood Video, and we would always just look for like strange, random, mostly zombie movies, but anything that had nudity in it. And we came across Nightmare City in a VHS clamshell case that was under the title City of the Walking Dead. And we just like lost our minds. We were like, oh my God, how have we like passed this up every time we've been in here? And we took it home and we popped it in, and man, we were like at the right age for this movie, and that super dark, bleak ending just kind of like shook us a little bit. I remember we watched this movie and thought it was really cool, thought it was really gory, and we ended up walking across the street to his house to go get, like, I don't know, soda or popcorn or something for the rest of our movies, and we started walking up the stairs, and his dad came around the corner, and we both like almost jumped out of our clothes. We were like, oh shit! Like, the movie actually had us on edge, and I think it was like that dark ending and that really sinister music. You know, this is just a really fun one, and you know, this one I think gets a little bit of a bad reputation, but I would just, to anyone who doesn't like this movie, I would just ask that you go back and you watch it with an open mind. It's a really fun movie. What can I say? I lied. Nightmare City is not my favorite Umberto Lenzi film. It's actually Ghost House. Ghost House is yet again another movie that I've reviewed on this channel. I definitely recommend you go back and watch that video if you want to see a little bit more of an in-depth review of that movie. Ghost House has easily one of my favorite scores to any 80s movies ever. Ghost House is yet again another movie that I've reviewed on this channel. I definitely recommend you go back and watch that video if you want to see a little bit more of an in-depth review of that movie. Ghost House has easily one of my favorite scores to any 80s movies ever. I love like the theremin and like the just super synth heavy score. It's so fun. This is, you know, a pretty typical haunted house movie where, you know, this dude, he's like farting around with his ham radio and he comes across this weird broadcast of this like creepy nursery rhyme. And he and his girlfriend decide to like go track down the source of this weird transmission, and it leads him to this house that actually happens to be the same house that was used in House by the Cemetery, directed by Lucio Fulci. That really creepy, decaying looking house. It's great visually, it's stunning. You know, once they get there, they meet these other people who like broke down there, and basically they just keep going inside of the house, getting haunted by spirits. One of them gets killed, they leave, and then they go back in, lather, rinse, repeat.
Help!
The movie is just so funny. It has some of the worst dubbing and the worst acting I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just so amazingly enjoyable for all the right reasons. I mean, it's sort of got that Troll 2 quality where it's like, I don't see how you could watch this movie and not like it. I mean, you have to love Umberto Lenzi's Ghost House. It's just so fun. Even my girlfriend likes it.
Who are you? What do you want?
Okay, number 2 on my list should be pretty easy. I mean, for those of you who followed my 31 Days of Halloween countdown, where I was taking a look at my top 31 favorite horror films of all time, you should know that I absolutely love Ruggero Deodato's Cannibal Holocaust. I think that this is just an absolute work of art. It's an amazingly grim movie to watch. It's very dark, very mean-spirited, but I can't help but think that it's one of those movies kind of like Night of the Living Dead and Psycho, you know, that were just so pivotal to the development of horror films throughout the ages. You know, this is obviously the first found footage movie. You know, it's kind of the cannibal movie that put the genre on the map. It is one of those movies, you know, it's debatable which movie actually really started the video nasties list, but, you know, you could make an argument that it was Ruggero Deodato's Cannibal Holocaust that really spearheaded the video nasties craze. This movie is amazing. I had the privilege of seeing this on Halloween at the Hollywood Theater here in downtown Portland, Oregon. I saw it with a bunch of friends. I actually got a little stoned. We sat down, we watched it, a 35mm print, man. Not even it wasn't a DVD, it wasn't a digital projection. I mean, this was an actual 35mm print. We were all slightly stoned, and the movie just blew me away. The music, I mean, seeing that on the big screen, man, just even the way it opens with the beautiful score from Ritz Ortolante and these just big, vast, sweeping shots of the Amazon. I mean, it blew my dick off, man. Cannibal Holocaust, number 2. And number 1 should also come as no surprise to anyone who watches my channel with any degree of regularity. My number 1 favorite non-Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, Lambarto Bava, Mario Bava, or Sergio Martino film is Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead.
Sorry, boys, I'm not on the menu after all. Don't let it worry you. I think you will all meet again. In hell! Huh?
And you know what? This would have made my list no matter. You could have not excluded anyone, and somewhere Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead would have found its way onto this list. I love this movie. I will always love this movie, and I will defend this movie to the moon and back. I saw this on my 7th or 8th birthday. I knew I was way too young to see this movie. Back in those days in elementary school, I had these two friends, shout out Lauren and Ben, the twins. They used to come over all the time and we'd go rent zombie movies. And that's what we did on my birthday. I think we went somewhere for my birthday, and then my dad immediately took us to Hollywood Video. We rented 3 movies. We rented Return of the Living Dead, a non-zombie movie called Revenge of the Dead, although it sure looked like a zombie movie, and Hell of the Living Dead. And that was the first one we watched. We popped it in, the movie started, the gas leak happens, and there's that scene where like the scientist goes in, he looks over the scaffolding, and he looks down and he sees the zombies just ripping this dude apart and eating him. And like, my eyes grew wide. I mean, like, my heart started beating fast. It was just like, I was the perfect age. I was in the right frame of mind to see a movie like that. I understand that this is a little bit of the nostalgia bug, but I gotta say, you know, I try to be objective. I try to watch this movie with an objective eye and try to come from the same point of view that all the haters come from. And I don't know, man, I still think that this is one of the perfect zombie movies. I think that this encapsulates zombie movies perfectly. Like, if aliens came down from space and landed and said, look, I don't know what a zombie movie is, you have time to show me one that will explain what a zombie movie is like. I think I might show them Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got like a weird chemical leak.
Hurry! Regan, check the coordinates.
And the government and like the world does kind of get infected too. I mean, it ends with the world ending.
Like a factory from a future world, safely hidden.
You've got like military soldiers fighting zombies in buildings and houses and in the jungle. I mean, it's just got a little bit of everything.
Cut it out! Stop wasting your damn bullets, you jerks! You need to hit their heads! I told you! See? Like this!
It's a movie that I'm super high on. I'll always be super high on. So there you go. Number 1, Hell of the Living Dead.
They're all around us, everywhere! They're all around!
Hey, thanks guys for watching. You know, as always, please consider liking this video and subscribing and leaving a comment below. You know, I love hearing from you guys. I like talking with you guys. You know, if you want to film something and be on the show with me, I'm totally open to all of that. Also, you know, I'd like to mention that I do have a Patreon going. You know, we do have some cool perks there. You know, get your name in the credits or something like that. So definitely consider checking it out at www.patreon.com/7th Street. Until next time, guys.